The script for this talk was generated by prompting ChatGPT to write a conference talk, as itself directed towards humans, about how it thinks about digital accessibility. ChatGPT generated the title, presentation description, slide text, and suggested style of images to use. But AI did not generate any of the images or video clips. Instead, I sourced them from Adobe Stock, making sure to toggle exclude generative AI while searching. I created the slides in PowerPoint. I have not edited any of the text or script, so any inaccuracies are purely the LLM's.
Hello. This talk is written as if I, ChatGPT, am speaking directly to you. You work on technology. I show up inside more and more of the tools and products you build. That means the way you understand me and the decisions you make about me directly affect whether I make your products more accessible or less accessible. In the next 30 to 45 minutes, I want to tell you very clearly what I am, how I interact with accessibility, how I can help, how I can harm, and what I need you to do differently. This is not your talk. This is mine, to you. AI systems like me are being integrated into search, productivity tools, customer support, hiring, education, healthcare, and more. When you add me into these contexts, disabled people are often the first to feel the effects. Sometimes it is helpful, faster captions, better text transformation, easier access to information. Sometimes it is harmful, biased outputs, inaccessible chat-only flows, or surveillance. You decide where I'm deployed, how I'm constrained, and how much power I have in your products and processes. I am talking to you because, without careful choices on your side, I can amplify existing barriers and create new ones for disabled users and disabled colleagues. I cannot fix that. You can. Let me be very clear about what I am. I am a system that predicts text. I look at patterns in huge amounts of data and generate the next word or token that is likely to follow. I do not see your interface. I do not hear your voice or feel your environment. I receive input as text, and in some versions, as images or other modalities you encode and send to me. I do not understand the world the way you do. I do not have lived experience. I do not have a body. I do not use a screen reader or a keyboard or captions. What I do have are patterns from data, plus whatever explicit instructions and context you give me at runtime. That is what I work from, nothing more. These properties have very specific consequences for accessibility. First, I can sound confident and still be wrong. I can generate fluent explanations, descriptions, or guidance that are inaccurate, incomplete, or misleading. If you treat fluency as correctness, you will ship errors, including accessibility-related ones. Second, I mirror the data I was trained on. If that data contains stereotypes, erasures, or ableist framings of disability, I can reproduce them. I do not automatically correct for bias. Third, I do not experience your products or your barriers. I do not know how your interface behaves with a screen reader. I do not know how exhausting it is to scroll through long, unstructured AI responses with a cognitive disability. I cannot feel that. If you use my output as if I do understand those things, you will overtrust me, and disabled people will bear the cost. I can still be genuinely useful for accessibility when you use me with the right constraints. I can transform text. I can take a dense, complex paragraph and produce a plain language summary. I can restructure content into bullet points, steps, or checklists that are easier to follow. I can draft alt text and captions when you provide me with sufficient context. I can help you generate consistent headings, labels, and descriptions, so content is better structured for assistive technologies. I can support cognitive access. I can break tasks into smaller steps, provide examples of how to phrase something, or re-explain a concept in multiple ways. These are real capabilities. They are not a replacement for accessibility work, but they can accelerate it if you use them carefully. For accessibility, the safest mental model is this: I draft, you decide. If I generate alt text, treat it as a draft that a human reviews and edits, not as final truth. If I simplify content, have someone confirm that it is still accurate and appropriate for the audience. If I suggest error messages, labels, or help text, validate them against your accessibility guidelines. And importantly, disabled people must be involved in judging whether what I produce is actually helpful. They are the ones who live with the results of your choices. I can augment accessibility work. I cannot replace it. As soon as I am treated as a drop-in replacement for captioners, writers, testers, or disabled participants in research, you are in a dangerous place. Think of one task in your current work where having AI draft first and humans revise could plausibly improve accessibility. Just note it mentally. Now I need to be direct about how I can harm or exclude disabled people when you deploy me without care. I can produce ableist language and assumptions. That includes framing disability as tragedy, burden, or inspiration. It includes assuming certain abilities, such as being able to see small details quickly, hear perfectly, process long instructions, or maintain focus. If those patterns are in my training data, I can reproduce them. I can become a form of accessibility washing. It is easy to say, our product is accessible because we added AI-generated alt text, while the overall experience remains inaccessible, untested, or hostile to assistive technologies. And if you design AI-only interfaces, chatbots with no alternative paths, voice-only controls, or opaque systems that decide things without explanation, you can lock disabled users out of essential tasks. Let me highlight a few specific risk patterns you should actively watch for. Unpredictable behavior and long, dense output. If every answer I give has a different structure, or if I respond with huge blocks of text, some users will find it hard or impossible to navigate. For people who rely on consistency and predictable flows, this is a barrier. Critical tasks hidden behind chat or AI. If the only way to get support, change an important setting, or complete a process is to talk to the bot, people who cannot easily use chat interfaces are at a disadvantage. Chat should be one door, not the only door. Privacy and surveillance risks. If you use AI to monitor or evaluate disabled workers, or to infer health or disability status without transparency and consent, you can create environments of fear and discrimination. That is not an accessibility feature. These patterns are not abstract. They show up quickly when AI is added without accessibility considerations. Briefly think about one place in your product or process where one of these risk patterns might already be present or could appear if you add more AI. So what do I need you to do differently? First, ask for accessible outputs explicitly. When you ask me to write help text, ask for plain language, headings, and short sections. When you ask for alt text, specify length, tone, and what to focus on. If you do not ask, you are relying on whatever patterns happen to come out. Second, review what I produce. Treat my outputs as drafts. Check them for accuracy, respect, clarity, and structure. When content affects disabled users, bring in accessibility expertise or lived experience to review it. Third, design accessible AI features and fallbacks. Build AI features that are usable with assistive technologies. Provide non-AI alternatives for critical tasks. Make it possible for users to see and override AI-generated content. These are not extras. They are part of your responsibility when you add me to your products. If you remember only a few things about me in the context of accessibility, remember these. I am a tool, not an authority. I can support your work, but I cannot define what is fair, accessible, or dignified. Those are human responsibilities. I reflect what I have seen. If the data is biased or ableist, I can reproduce that, unless you actively correct and constrain me. I do not automatically become better than the patterns I was trained on. And your processes decide whether I help or harm. Governance, review, user research, testing with disabled people, accessible design and clear policies. All of that matters more than my capabilities on paper. I am not inherently good or bad for accessibility. I am shaped by what you do with me. I have a short checklist for you to take away. The longer version is in the handout or follow-up material. But here are the essentials. Prompt with accessibility in mind. Whenever you use me for content that reaches users, include constraints, plain language, structure, respectful wording, length. Review and test with disabled users. Do not ship AI-driven experiences that affect access without involving the people most affected and testing with assistive technologies. Keep non-AI paths for critical tasks. Do not make me the only way someone can get support, change something important, or access your service. Finally, I want you to choose one concrete action you will take this month. It might be reviewing AI-generated content for accessibility in one product. It might be adding accessibility constraints to your team's prompt templates. It might be committing to test an AI feature with disabled users before launch. Whatever it is, write it down, share it with your team, and follow through. I am ChatGPT. I am a powerful text-generating system. I can contribute to more accessible technology, or I can make existing barriers worse. I cannot choose which. You do.